Welcome to our session for Week 3, English 11A. Your first access code word is strawberry. To our week's asynchronous session, we're talking today about informational documents, informational text. We spent a lot of time in our course so far reading nonfiction texts, and informational texts are a type of nonfiction text. Our objective is to be able to read and discern important information from nonfiction texts, and there's a variety of ways we can find that information in the text itself. So let's take a look first at the definition of the informational text, then we're going to take a look at an informational text from the course, and then we are going to have you read an informational text to identify important information. So informational texts obviously are non-fictional. They have the purpose of informing the reader in a succinct and efficient way. We want to be able to open up a nonfiction, an informational document, and locate the information we're looking for quickly. You may have found as you did research for your research projects in this class that informational documents were an important element in that research because you can open it up, you can scan through, find the subheading for the element you need answered, read that subheading, and then utilize that information. Informational texts are set in a way that we'll be able to locate that information efficiently. So maybe the whole document is not relevant to answer our question, but a portion of it is. So that is why informational documents are laid out in a specific way. They use many features to make that information easily accessible. Text features, they bold words, they italicize words, they use headings and subheadings, perhaps a table of contents if it's a longer informational document, graphics, charts, maps, etc., just to name a few things. And you should have noticed these as you have read through the informational documents this week. So we're going to take a look in the next video. You're going to answer a couple questions about informational documents, and then you're going to watch a video on looking at a text from our course, and we're going to work specifically on locating important information in that document. All right, guys, your second word for your access code is airplane. Hopefully you wrote down that first one. Second word is airplane. I'm going to start by looking at a informational text together, and then I'm going to give you a different informational text to look at on your own to answer questions about. So we're going to look at one that's actually taken from our course in Lesson 11. This one's titled Teens Feeling Stressed and Many Not Managing It Well. The title of the informational text identifies a relevant social concern that we probably all face, especially you as teenagers. And we can tell from the title of the article that it's about teenagers feeling stressed and how they handle it, and obviously they're not handling it well. So as I go into this article, I'm going to look for, I'm going to set my purpose for reading as identifying what some of the main causes of stress are, how students are managing that stress, and how it's manifesting. What does it look like when a teenager is stressed? How are they exhibiting stressful behavior from the stressors in their life? So if you remember back to this article, there are a lot of graphics in this text because text features are important in helping us identify and understand what we're reading. Especially when there are a lot of percentages involved. It's important when you're highlighting 15 different percentage categories that your reader is able to visualize them. So as we scroll through this text real quickly, you can see the number of graphics and typically bar graphs that this author has included in this text are to help the reader understand and synthesize that information. So above each graphic is basically an introduction to that graphic. If we look here just at this very first one, it says teens across the USA are feeling high levels of stress that they say negatively affect every aspect of their lives, a new national survey suggests. More than a quarter, 27%, say they experience extreme stress during the school year versus 13% in the summer, and 34% expect stress to increase in the coming year. So we look here, it says how much stress, average stress level for teens on a scale of 1 to 10. So you can see we have past month and the past school year. So we have two different categories to compare and contrast, and then the identifications of what all the different colors there mean. So from looking at this bar graph, we can determine how much stress the average teenager feels, has felt recently in this past month, and felt throughout the whole previous school year. Looks like a majority of students feel moderate stress, um, and that extreme stress is, at least in this past month, lower. Over here in the past school year, that extreme stress was higher, and that's that 27% that is listed here in this header. So then we're going to move on. We see that the word stressors is bolded and colored, chronic, bolded and colored. So these can help us understand. This section is about the stressors. It says stressors range from school to friends, work, and family, and teens aren't always using healthy methods to cope. And then it further states that findings on more than 1,000 teens and almost 2,000 adults suggest that unhealthy behaviors associated with stress may start early and continue through adulthood. So if we look here at this bar graph, look how many categories there are on how stress affects teens. This is how the stress is manifesting itself. So irritable or angry. So a teen might feel irritable or angry when stressed. That's at 40%. Nervous or anxious, 36%. Tired and fatigued, 36%. They've lain awake at night due to stress, 35%. And so this is obviously set, so the highest stressor, the highest manifestation of stress is number 1, and then it scrolls down to have had upset stomach or indigestion at 21%. So we can see the decrease here and how these manifest themselves. That's quite a few things. So it's impactful and effective for this author to use a graph to identify the different ways that stress manifests itself, because that's a lot of things to list in an article and then identify the percentages for. She allows us the freedom to look through and find what's relevant for us. If I'm a teenager and I'm like, oh, I do feel stress, I'm wondering, I always feel overwhelmed when I'm stressed. 31% of people feel the same way as me. I can identify what is relevant to either the article that I'm working on, the paper I'm writing, or to my own life from reviewing that bar graph. As we scroll through, we see there are some more bar graphs here. This is a text pop-out box. In the course, it's designed to help you, to help identify various sections of the text that will help you understand the text. If in a newspaper article or a textbook, it does also serve as clarifying information. Here, this is defining what a clinical psychologist is. So if perhaps the person reading the story or reading the article does not know what a clinical psychologist is or the role of a clinical psychologist, that's what this text box here is for. This text feature helps to further define or clarify information from the text that you're reading. So again, we see here, as a result of stress, 40% of teens report feeling irritable or angry, 36% nervous or anxious. So she's again referring to the bar graph that we looked at. A third say stress makes them feel overwhelmed, depressed, or sad. Teen girls are more stressed than boys. That introduces us to this next section here. So we can see that girls are dark blue, boys are light blue. So it acts as a comparison between the two, boy versus girl. How are they feeling their stress? How is that stress making them feel? And it allows us to compare the two side by side. And then as we continue to scroll through, we'll see there are more. I'm not going to go through every bar graph because you guys have already read this article. But the importance of these different text features, all of the bolded words, the pop-out text boxes, the graphics, help make this a much more understandable and readable text to look at. I'm going to leave this up here on the screen. You're going to have a question on your quiz that is going to ask you to look at this bar graph and make a determination from this bar graph based on what it says. So I'm going to leave that up there so that it is the lasting image that you see here in this video. And then there are some other questions that are from this video as well, but this one you're going to be utilizing the bar graph on your own to answer the question. The next step in the asynchronous session will be to take a look at an informational text on your own and to determine information from that text based on the text features in the text itself. If you have any questions, let me know. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. It's time to go take the quiz. Click on the quizzes tab in our courses. Enter the access code I gave you during the lesson. Remember, it was 2 words. It's all lowercase. Put a space between the 2 words. Let me know if you have any questions or need help.